It's a brand new epic Western series on Netflix. It's called Territory, but is it worth your time?
We've been asking calling Lawson for that key to go hunting, but nothing.
When the massive Lawson cattle station lacks an heir, Australia's rival factions see a chance to seize control. The land grabs threaten to destroy the declining dynasty. And obviously with these big grand westerns, as of late, we've gotten Outer Range on Amazon, which had more of a sci-fi twist, obviously. But the big one, the most obvious comparison, one that everyone's going to use in their review, it's Yellowstone. How Yellowstone is Territory. Well, Territory takes place in Australia. It's not in the United States. And the first thing I want to say is how they utilize Australia as almost a character. The land, the atmosphere, the rich history that we get a little bit of. Obviously, you're going to get the drama with all of the various characters, groups of characters, and the tone that's established early on. I think in the first episode, you get a good idea of what kind of show this is going to be. But utilizing Australia to its benefit, I believe, helps make this show what it is, but also allows it to stand out from a Yellowstone. This is, yes, it's Australia's Yellowstone, but it's not, right? Very different story, very different groups of people, and the drama is distinctly different itself. Now, here's another show I'm going to compare this to, and you're going to be like, Austin, what are you talking about? How about Succession? Because we are dealing with a line of successors here and other families moving into this territory and feeling that weakness, this empire crumbling, even though it's not really in the beginning, if you will. But you start to see the pieces move around, and as this unravels, the drama becomes a little more satisfying along the way. And thus, you have a very different power struggle. And again, Territory is just, it's full of that. It's full of drama all the way throughout. Melodrama, at times, you have the obvious power struggle, but there are also some things that do feel a little forced along the way between these families, between characters. But there is that dry sense of humor that shines through in some of the more dramatic moments that I really appreciate. There's a very different, distinct type of humor that you can get from certain Australian projects, and that comes through in Territory. I didn't know if it would. I appreciate that. And again, sticking with the Australian side of it all, that's very present throughout, from the wildlife to the grand terrain to, well, the Indigenous rights to land that they hit on in this show, which, you know, you get some unexpected themes in Territory, which I really appreciated, right? Obviously, we're focused on the characters that they established in the beginning, but there's some things that pop up, and I'm like, oh, that threw a nice wrench into things, makes it a little more complicated, but also you want to up the stakes and you want to up the drama in a show like this. And like I said, the drama is present throughout. Now, the first episode, there is a lot that happens that just throws you into it, which, one, I respect, but two, I wish we wouldn't have moved so quick because there's only so many episodes in this show, only 6, which is different because usually you're getting an 8 to 10 episode show. Or something like Yellowstone, you're getting all kinds of episodes, and you only got 6 here to establish everything. So you almost have to throw us into it, but at the same time, I'm like, I wish there was a little more of a build-up. A show like Outer Range spends a ton of time building up characters. It gets complicated. This one doesn't get complicated per se, but you have more time to establish those things. And our family here is interesting. The guy over it all is Colin, and Colin just kind of looks at everyone else, scoffs, unless it's his son, obviously, but he's the kind of guy that, you know, doesn't take any shit.
Language.
One son's looked upon as great, the other one's a disappointment, the other one doesn't want anything to do with them, so obviously the family is in shambles in a way, but you also want to look upon them as, oh, they are in a position of power, yet when people come into town and they see the way that everything's going on, it's like, nah, they're broken. And there are traditions in the Marianne Station where things are run a certain way. Some people are scratching their head like, why is it run this way if it isn't working? Women not being able to be in positions of power, and then obviously what's going on with their ownership of this land that may not have even been their land in the first place. And that was, again, a curveball thrown into the show that I really appreciated. It's one that you don't think it's going to be as deep as it honestly gets after the first episode, but it does. And it kind of surprised me along the way. Look, I love these big, grand, epic westerns. And even though Territory doesn't get everything right, and sometimes the character dynamics are so cliche, it's like I've seen that 1,000 times in a show like this. Honestly, the more they brought to the table here and the more complicated they made it, the more I was kind of getting hooked on the various families and stories. And it is a little all over the place at times. I'll admit that. But, you know,
we don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care.
I couldn't help but to just kind of soak it all up. And there are so many threats to the characters that we're following here in Territory. Like, obviously, not just people, but the terrain and the animals and what's going to happen next. But it's also your typical Western product of we're going to pull a gun on each other, and is it going to get violent? It occasionally does. They put their money where their mouth is, for sure. And also just the consistent amount of surprises, the way certain episodes ended, I'm like, all right, that feels more like HBO rather than Netflix, which is great. Like, overall, that's not the vibe of this series just because of the genre and what it's dealing with, but that with the Australian kick, with just kind of really leaning into what they're doing, man, I enjoyed this. I don't know if everyone else is going to enjoy it because, again, we've seen these cliches 1,000 times, but these are the types of shows that I dig. These are the types of shows that I get invested in. Just this look and this feel, and Territory did that, man. It kind of sweeps you off the feet with its epic Western nature, and even though it is a little long and drawn out at points, it's only 6 episodes, so it's not going to take you too long to binge. Before I give you my score, are you watching Territory on Netflix? If you like this review, what else do you want to see me review? And drop a like if you want to see more Netflix content. I'd also love to know, do you think this show has potential? Territory takes advantage of its setting to the fullest degree. There are plenty of genre tropes that may not bring in new fans, but the character dynamics and sense of atmosphere manage to surprise at almost every turn. This has potential to be the next breakout epic Western series. We'll see what happens, man. You never know. You never know with these shows, but I like this one. I like that this is... it feels different for Netflix standards, which is cool, and I had a good time binging it, and that's exactly what I did. So are you binging this? Are you doing week to week for some reason? What's the model? All right, see you soon.